Good afternoon. My name is Bill Young. Today we're going to talk about ecological succession. Succession, before sort of European colonization, there were natural fires, there were floods, there was lightning strikes, and it would take this forest and burn it and put it back to zero. So succession is basically starting from zero, and you get pioneer plants like forbs and then grasses, and there are species that are adapted to that. But as trees come in, and in the Northeast, trees are the climax forest, so ultimately it is good. Left alone, it's going to go back to forest. So the species that are depending on those pioneer and the early stages need disturbance, such as fire, flooding, hurricanes, any kind of natural disasters, blowdowns in the forest, big windstorms. They need that to take down the big trees and put it back. And it's not like any one of these ecosystems is good or bad. They're different. And so species like the meadowlark is adapted. It doesn't want any trees. It's a grassland species. And because there's a lot of farming and there was a lot of clearing in New Jersey, meadowlarks did very well. And a lot of sort of Midwestern birds that are adapted to the prairie came east because they found habitat here. But as farms go dormant and start to get reclaimed and go back to forest or to housing, which doesn't help, they lose that habitat. So they need whether it's prescribed fire or some kind of a beaver. Beaver will take down trees and dam areas and flood them, which sets succession back. So either it's got to happen naturally or man has to do it, and then these early successional species can thrive. So the grasshopper sparrow, the meadowlark, and the bobolink, they just want grassland. That's what they're adapted to. And when trees start coming in, birds are going to drop seeds. As birds fly over, they drop, and they are perfect delivery systems for seeds, and these seedlings will come up. We have 48 inches of rain in the Northeast. It's eventually going to be trees. In the prairie is the climax, so it'll stay grassland forever because it doesn't get enough rainfall to support trees. So we have an ecosystem, and we did get these prairie birds because of all the clearing, and the Native Americans had fire, and there was natural fire just from lightning. So there was habitat for them, but they need to stop the succession. So succession can go this way with time. The importance of old growth, these big canopy trees, the northeastern deciduous forest, is that they support more species of birds. For instance, I'm using birds for this thing. They support more species of birds. Think about it. They have layers. There's a whole bunch of heights, so there's different birds in different niches at the various levels. There's cavities in trees. There's some dead trees. There's nesting possibilities. So there's more pairs and there's more birds supported in the climax forest, and that takes 150 to 200 years. That's why old age forests are critical, because there's a lot of species that depend on them, and you can't get back 200 years. You can take 200 years, burn it, and get back to year zero in no time, but you can't take year one and go up 200 years. There's no farther time that you can accelerate. So this is important to protect the climax forest, but also we have to have some patches where there is, whether it's prescribed fire or even mowing. Mowing can take this out and bring this back to support our pioneer, our grassland birds that come in, and after a couple of years, and by the way, what these pioneers do, they're cycling of nutrients, they build the soil. So the soil is actually improving, getting more organic matter, getting more nutrients, getting more bacteria and fungi. So this is what supports these big old trees, because there's soil that's able to do it. After a fire, the soil is kind of depleted and it starts from zero. Fire is also important because a lot of species are dependent. The seeds wait for the heat of the fire, knowing if they germinate before that, they're going to get outcompeted by these shady trees. So they are sitting there like a pine cone. It knows when the heat gets to a certain point, it's going to drop its seeds. It's going to open the cones and drop its seeds because it knows it's going to have bare ground in which to germinate. It won't germinate in cool, and not in a fire, because there's a closed canopy. There's nowhere to go. but it knows, it senses that heat, and it opens up the cones and drops the seeds, knowing that it's going to fall on charred land, which is bare, and those pine trees will have a chance to grow. So we go from forbs, 1 to 2 years, grasses, 2 to 3 years, and then the shrubs start coming in 15 to 20 years. And there's all these birds that are adapted to this alone, and the cottontail rabbits, they need that kind of thicket, and they're safe from predators. And then it gets into pines. Pines are pioneer trees. These are trees that need the sunlight. They're not going to grow in an understory in an eastern deciduous forest. They're going to be out, and eastern red cedar, they're going to come out in the old fields and grow and start to build the forest. And then over time, more woodies come in, and more of the canopy trees like the beech, birch, oak, maple, the tall deciduous canopy trees will come in and we'll get our forest. So we have the building of soil, we have the changing of species by each different niche, and we have succession, which left alone is going to give us the climax community. So every part, there's biomes around the whole earth. That climax is with the rainfall and the temperature that's there. Is it tundra? Is it desert? Is it boreal forest? Is it eastern deciduous forest? That's the climax that with the rainfall and temperature is the ultimate final ecosystem. It's still dynamic, but there's no stage after this. And it's only when we set back succession that we can start it again. And our early successional species, that's critical since we've now built roads and we've fragmented everything and we've suppressed fire, it's critical that we help them out by doing prescribed burns or flooding, or let the beavers dam. That knocks trees down and lets this early succession back in. Once you start having trees, these guys go away. Once there are trees there, that is not habitat for them. They nest in the grasses, they feed in the grasses, and that's what they need. So that's sort of like a quick thing of succession, and hope you enjoyed it.